Hello and welcome to Beaverdale Books. Thanks so much for joining us for tonight's book launch. Before we begin, I want to mention a couple of upcoming events. We have award-winning poet Richard Tillinghast. He's going to be here tomorrow night with his book, Night Train to Memphis. And then on Monday, we have another local writer, Shadley Gray. He lives right here in Beaverdale, and he has a new novel called Before Closure. Then on Sunday, September 14th at 2:30, Joyce Rupp, one of our very favorite local authors, is going to come to share her inspirational book. I love the name. It's called The Years of Ripening, Reflections on Aging in Later Life. I can't wait to read it. Plus, there is still plenty of time to buy a ticket for a special appearance by author Veronica Roth. And she is best known as the creator of the Divergent series. Oh, somebody knows. Yes, she's going to be at Franklin Event Center on Tuesday, September 16th. She's got a new book, and it's called To Clutch a Razor. And you can find all the details on our website, or you can pick up a flyer at the register. But now, on to tonight's book launch of Bodies of Proof. A shocking confession, a prolific killer, and a legal minefield. That's the story in the second book in the Smith and Bauer legal thriller series. We're thrilled to host co-author Laura Snider, who is a practicing lawyer right here in Iowa. She graduated from Drake Law School in 2009 and has spent most of her career as a public defender. Throughout her legal career, she's been involved in all levels of crimes, from, not personally, from petty thefts to murders. These days, she is working part-time as a prosecutor and spends the remainder of her time writing stories and creating characters. So please join me in a very warm Beaverdale Books welcome for Chorus.
All right, so we're here talking about the series I'm co-writing with James Chandler. It's been a really fun process writing with him. He's a pretty well-known author, and he's got a very interesting perspective. And the way that we write, I will write the first draft, and then I send it off to him, and he adds changes to it and then sends it back to me. And the fun part about that is it's almost like getting, you know what's going to happen in the book when you're reading it that second time, but it's just so much better, and it's so much more fun to read your book with somebody else's fingerprints on it. And so that's how we co-write. This series originally was set to be a 3-book series, and the third book will be, I think it's up for pre-order now, but I think it's going to be a 4-book series now. But the first book starts with really 2 main characters. Marko, who is an attorney who is struggling with alcoholism, and he is really, it's affecting his job and how he appears in court. And Allee, who is recently released from prison. And she is a very interesting character. She went to prison due to her addiction to methamphetamine, and while in prison, she ends up falling in love with classic horror novels. And so she has different phrases tattooed kind of all over her body that mean something to her from different books that are classic horror films. And a lot of, her flashbacks and those will kind of trigger things that happened to her that brought her to the place where she is. And these 2 people, completely separate backgrounds, both struggling with addictions in different ways. Allee's sober by force, and Marko is not sober at all. And so in the first book, they kind of navigate their relationship, and she ends up helping him get sober, and they end up working together to solve this crime. And that's what starts Justice Bites. And so when we start Bodies of Proof, we start, and it's a second book, but they each have a beginning and ending, so they can be read as standalones. It's probably a richer experience to start from the beginning and go through, but I think, I mean, anyone who's read a prequel, if you start with 2, you can go back to 1. It shouldn't ruin the experience for you, and you shouldn't be lost. Nothing kind of ends. But in Body of Proof, I wanted to write a serial killer book, and I wanted to write it in a way that, kind of reflected on, the experience of the victims. So the opening of the book is told from a dog's perspective. It's a border collie that's running with his owner, and how he has the best life in the world, and then she's kidnapped by the serial killer, and how law enforcement doesn't really take it seriously at first until there's a second one, and then these, of course, Marko and Allee get kind of tied up with some of these characters, and they end up as a defense attorney and a defense attorney's investigator, kind of solving the crime, which is not really expected, but they're thrown in the middle of it in a way they don't really want to be. And so, yeah, it was a really fun book to write, and I don't have an outline when I write. I just start, with characters, and the characters start doing things, and because I practice law and I practice this kind of law, it's really kind of easy for me to move them around in a world that I know so well. So yeah, that's how these books are coming into fruition, and I'm just finishing the 3rd book, which is a fun book too. But yeah, so that's the books. Does anybody have any questions? Yes.
Does the 3rd book have a title yet?
The Final Appeal.
Ooh.
Yeah, that book is about a guy who is in prison. He's already been convicted. He's gone through all of his appeals, and he's on his final post-conviction relief. And he's saying that he's innocent. And they're coming from a place where they get this letter from this guy, and he's swearing he's innocent. And there's 6 days before the filing deadline for the post-conviction relief, and they're trying to decide if they want to represent him. Of course they do, because that's the story. But, and that ends up leading to a whole host of, they learn a lot of things about the case, and there's some people from this book, and even the 1st book, that show up in this book as well, that are kind of side characters that become more important, I suppose, in this book. So it's hard to say a lot without saying everything,
Yeah.
Yeah.
As I said earlier, I'm reading Molly Sand Must Die.
Mm-hmm.
Was there a reason? I see most of yours are not standalone books, but that one is a standalone. It says
It is, yeah.
in the beginning, is it a standalone?
It is, yeah.
And I like Angel, so what happened? She dies or something? You didn't want to write more books about her?
I just think you have to get to the end of that book before
She's probably
you can.
the killer.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm only 70 pages in, and I like her. But,
Yeah.
I guess there's a reason it's a standalone.
Yeah. Well, it's just that it's not written in the way that these other books are written, which are the start and the end of a case. Like Justice Bites, and it's hard to. There's so many books. So it's like, which book is the one I wrote about this thing? Body of Proof being the serial killer case. They will get one client, and that client, everything will follow that client. Like, even though the serial killer portion of it feels tangential and separate from that client, it all kind of ties into that person. And then when that person is convicted and their case is over, the book ends. And so that's how the book can start and end. And Molly Sand is, you've got all these women who have ulterior motives and seem like they'll never ever be friends, and they're all brought together and is for a certain reason, and so it doesn't really have a really great natural beginning and ending in the way that like a criminal case would. So
I'm curious what's led to this hint of a fourth book. Like, is something exciting in the characters to you, or what's leading you there?
Oh no, I just our publisher wanted to do 4. so we'll do 4. And maybe there'll be more, I don't know. Right? I mean, it feels like I've been writing constantly for years now. So who knows? We'll see.
So, do you have actual clients that you pull from for character development?
I don't. No, there's, I mean, I think like with all circumstances, there's just, you're working with people, and there are some people who impact you more in certain ways. I'm also a big true crime person, so I like work in true crime, and I write legal thrillers, and I listen to all the true crime podcasts. So it's almost like you hear all of these stories, and you kind of piece these like people that I know and people that I've read about and people that I've heard about, and you just kind of piece, especially like this book. I've never written a serial killer book because I haven't really spent so much time trying to understand serial killers, like why they do what they do and like what their psyche is. And at that period of time, I was, like really focusing on that. And so I think to write a serial killer who makes sense, you have to spend a lot of time learning about past serial killers in order to make their backstory make sense. So, yeah. Anyone else? Yeah.
Like, how does it feel when you like do these
Like a launch event?
like the launch events? How does it feel to know that this book is out in the world and anybody can read it? Like, how
Good
does that feel to
question.
you?
It's kind of like, it's out of your control. Like, you just don't, it's very hard with writing to like let a book go. Some people, I'm under deadline, so it's like, it has to be done. And some people who aren't writing under a deadline might write for years and years and years and edit because they don't have like an ending point. And then when you send it off into the world, it's almost like you've no control over it anymore, and you just are hoping that people will like it. So it can be nerve-wracking, but you just have to remind yourself that you did your best work, and you hope that people enjoy what you've written. And not everyone will. That's the thing that I think you have to learn after being an author for a while, is that not everybody's going to enjoy your work, and there will be negative reviews. And I think with Justice Bites, one of the comments was like, "Justice bites the dust," and I was like, "Ha, that was pretty clever." Like, you just have to like, hey, it's they chose to buy your book and read it, and it's their choice whether to like it or not, and that's okay. That's up to them. But there's also lots of people, when they write reviews and they enjoy the book, that it's the reason why you do it. Like, you're getting your kind of story out there, but also you're doing it so that other people find enjoyment. So, yeah.
Clients were mentioned. Do you ever have clients that think you're writing about them, or that their story is in there?
You know what? No. I don't have clients anymore because I'm a prosecutor, but I've never had a client think that they were in a book. I've had attorneys think that I wrote about them, or I wrote about another attorney, but I think that says more about attorneys than about anyone else. And I always tell them, no, like there might be some characteristics in this character that have something like that are similar to you, but it's not you. I'm not like, what's that song? You Are So Vain. Like, yeah.
So when you're writing on deadline, I think that would just be really hard for the creative process, because I've read some books where it's real obvious that, man, that last 3 chapters, they were just cranking it out, mm-hmm. you know? Do you feel that way, or?
No, like I am under deadline, and it is important for me to have deadlines so that I feel stressed enough that I finish it. But I'm also fortunate enough to work with a publisher that usually will extend deadlines if people need that extension. It's just better for me not to ask for an extension, because if you give me, like, if you give a mouse a cookie, you know, like, I'm just going to keep doing it. So for me, I just, you know, I have made a promise that I'm going to get this done, and so I'm going to get it done. And I mean, this most recent book 3, I thought it would be done in June, and it is now September, and it is not quite finished, but it's close to done. I had like a couple of months that I was really stressing, that because I didn't know how I was going to finish it. I didn't know how it was going to move forward, and that's happened to me in a number of books, and always the solution for me has been, okay, well, you've pushed this too far forward with these characters who aren't the story. So then I have to go back and retell the story from a different character's perspective, and then it moves forward. And a lot of times I'm hung up where, like, it needs another character, it needs some more flair, something interesting to add to it, and some more, usually it's a chaos agent. Like, you need some new character that will create chaos, and then I can move forward with the book. So it can be stressful. I mean, this one I was starting to think, oh no, am I not going to get it done in time? But I will. So yeah.
Do you have a word count that you
I
aim
always
for?
try to hit 70,000, like right around 70,000. And ironically, like that usually is where the story ends. Like, it's not like I'm going back and cutting a lot out, or I'm trying to put a bunch of filler nonsense in there. That's usually just where it ends. And with co-writing too, I mean, he will add a lot to it too. So, you know, a 70,000 word book might become 80,000 with him cutting and adding things to it too. So, yeah, but it does usually end right around 70,000 for some reason. Yeah.
If you don't use an outline, how do you know what to see? You have it all in your head?
I don't, but then apparently I do. You know, it's like, it's not in the front of my mind, I suppose, but I mean, I do always have, you know, a lot of stories, if you're reading, they'll follow a kind of arc where it's like things are not good, and then somewhere about halfway through the book or 3/4 through the book, it's like things get like almost like where they're really good, and then something really bad happens, and then you have to solve that really bad thing. And it's usually about the halfway point where I get, and I'm like, everything is good, and then I'm like, what really bad has to happen, and who's going to bring this to the next level? But yeah, I mean, all authors are either plotters or pantsers, and I'm a pantser. I just write, and I've tried to work with an outline, and I can't do it. Like, I can't. I think part of it is it's not fun for me, And if it's not fun for me, I don't want to do it. Like, I want to write a story where I am also reading it, you know, the characters are guiding me, and I'm learning something new about these characters. And I have to rewrite a lot because I do that. Like, I mean, there are, like I said, almost every book I've written, I have to go back at least some point. Some books I've had to trash 50,000 words and just start all over at the beginning. And that can be very frustrating, but it's also like, well, I learned a lot about these characters, and I figured out, you know, where their quirks are and why they're interesting and why I mean, all the best characters are complex, and so there's good things and bad things about them, and so you learn a lot of that in the first bad draft. So.
Do you read a lot of mysteries and thrillers?
Yes, I do.
Do you worry about taking other people's ideas, or?
Not really. I don't know, because I don't feel like I write like anyone in particular. But I do, and also, like, because I'm writing from characters and I'm writing based on like knowledge that I have from court and actual criminal cases and true crime, and like you're just piecing all these little things together. I mean, I don't actually, I mean, I don't want to write like anyone else. Like, I don't want to write anyone else's story, so I've not really ever, I've definitely been inspired by different writers, but never found myself wanting to tell the story they already told.
Good.
So.
What writers do you like?
Oh, well, yes. I feel like I need to have my Goodreads to, so I do read a lot of thrillers. I always read, though, Frederick Backman's books, because he writes really, really good, quirky characters, and I love that. Like, because I think that he inspires me because I want my characters to be unique, and so, yeah. And then who is it that wrote Gone Girl? And
Gillian Flynn.
Yeah, Gillian Flynn, and Sharp Objects. I think were those books based in Kansas? Like, I'm from Kansas. I feel like she talks about Kansas, at least in one or two of her books. And she too, like Sharp Objects. Like she writes some really good, dark, complex female characters, which I think, I mean, I write pretty dark, complex female characters, which, I mean, I enjoy reading her books for that reason. But I also read, you know, all kinds of different, you know, I think my favorite book is Jurassic Park. So, I just, you know, I grew up, like, that was one of the biggest movies when I was growing up, and then I didn't even know it was a book, and then I became an adult and started reading a lot, and I read it, and I was like, wow, how he sets up the dinosaurs, like, just the beginning of that book, like, just fascinating how that book is written, even when you know that, oh, they're dinosaurs, because it's not revealed right away in the beginning. It's like, it's so well written. So I
Have you read any other Michael Crichton?
I don't.
Oh,
I don't
you should
know.
read more of them.
Okay.
Yeah. Such a good writer.
Yeah. An Ender's Game. I love that book. That's like a space book. Like, but I mean, I will read almost anything, and I kind of go all around. Right now, I'm reading more fantasy stuff, and I'll go back to thrillers soon. But yeah, I just try to read a lot and understand like what I like about the books and what I can you know, what is interesting, you know, right now. So yeah.
Any other questions? All right, I think Laura's going to be signing some books here, and help yourself to
Yeah,
snacks.
yeah.
Courtesy of Laura.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming.